Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. At present, I am talking on Vedas. Today, I'll talk on the format, structure, and other details of the subparts related to Vedas in general. We'll begin with a simple overview of what Vedas are. Uh, Three Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samveda, known as the Vedatrayee, are the first three, and the later inclusion Atharva Ved form the four Vedas that we are supposed to know about. For all these four Vedas, the internal subdivision is the same in terms of their names, and each part actually has the same approach for that particular Veda. The two main parts of all Vedas are the Karma Kanda, which deals with the rituals, the rites, the prayers, the processes that are to be followed during a yajna, that is a sacrificial fire. Um, Jnana which is the second part, is the search for true knowledge, the philosophical approach of the Vedas, and its ultimate objective is in this Jnana that we know of. The Karmakanda itself is divided into Samhita and Brahmana as the two parts, and the Jnana is divided into Aranyak and Upanishad as its two parts. I'll explain the terms as I come along. The Karmakanda, as it moves into the Dhyan evolves in a number of ways. The Aranyak itself, as it moves to the Upanishads, has an evolving thought process of its own. The Samhita is basically a compilation of the prayer mantras and the suktas. The Brahman is not a caste, we'll come to that later. It deals with the procedural part, the prose part of each of the Vedas. The Aranyak is the beginning of the analysis of the logic as to why the Karma Kanda is being followed. And the Upanishad deals with the philosophy or the essence of what Vedas are. It's also sometimes known as Vedanta, the end of the Vedas, the final culmination of the knowledge that is there in the Vedas. In some of the books, you'll find that the Samhita, Brahman, Aranyak, and Upanishad are treated as the tree, branches, flower, and fragrance, something that is obviously seen around. Fragrance, something to be experienced, not visualized directly, like the rest of the three of them. From Samhita to Upanishads, there is a progress in the maturity level, in the expectations, in the social approach, in the intellectual level. And this grows exponentially, rising and culminating to its maximum in the Upanishads. How big are the Vedas? To get an understanding of the vastness and the spread of the Vedas, I'll give you some numbers, some statistical information. Um, you're not supposed to remember these numbers right now, not really required. But this is just to get a feel of the magnitude of how vast all this information is. The Rigveda has 10,552 mantra, which are divided into groups of 1028 sukta, that is the prayers. There are 10 mandal or chapters in this. They can also be identified in terms of what are known as the anuvak, the ashtak, that's the groups of 8, the adhyay, and the suktas. Uh, Whenever Rigveda is dealt with in a yajna, there has to be someone who leads the group for the Rigveda, and he is known as Hotru or Hota as the prime person dealing with it. The second Ved is the Yajurved. It is divided into 40 adhyaya or chapters. It has 5 kandas or main sections. It has 1075 mantra, out of which 581 are from the Rigveda itself. And the person who's supposed to control the people in, or the prayer persons within the yajna associated with the Yazuru is known as the Advaryu. The third Ved is the Samved. It's divided into 2 Arshik. Some places you will hear that they are divided into 3 Arshik, because the third one, the Madhyam Arshik, is in the central bit, a small part. These are all 3 sections. It has 1875 mantras. The person who recites them, the chief, is known as the Udgata. Out of these mantras, more than 1800 are from the Rigveda itself. The reason is very simple. They actually deal with the process in which they are to be sung. The Vedic mantras, how they are to be sung, is explained in detail in the Samved. So naturally, the numbers would overlap, as I mentioned. That brings us to the fourth one, which is the Atharva Ved. It is divided into 20 kand or parts. Sometimes they are referred to as the 34 prapathak, similar to Anuvak. It has 731 suktas or prayer groups, which are composed of 5,977 mantras, out of which 1,260 are from the Rigveda itself. Many times the interpretations of these mantras in different Vedas are in a different manner. That's why they are repeated many times as we go along. The two major areas, the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda, have two different approaches, as I said. Karma Kanda is more like activity dominated parts, blue collar jobs, as you can call them. They're more ritualistic in their performances, etc. While the Jnana Kanda is like a white collar job, intellectual in its approach, philosophical in its approach, dealing more with the thought processes than the activities. There's one more area that we must think of parallel to the Vedas. The Hindu life cycle is also divided into 4 parts, like these 4. They are known as the ashram: the Brahmacharya Ashram, which is the student life; the Grihastha the family life; the Vanaprastha the retirement life; and Sannyas the part that deals with seclusion from the society. The 4 parts of the Vedas, the Samhita, Brahman, Aranyak, and Upanishad, are correlated to the 4 ashrams. Roughly around 25 years is the time span that you can give to each of them. In the Brahmacharya Ashram, that is the student life, you are expected to study, memorize, and understand the Samhita part of the Vedas. In the Grihastha Ashram, that is family life, you have to perform and practice the variety of yajnas and other rituals in your daily life in accordance with the Brahmana part of the Vedas. During early retirement, that is one Vanaprasthashram, contemplate on the logic and reasoning of why the activities in the Karma Kanda were actually performed. It's also a time to uh, follow what is known as the Upasana. So it's also sometimes called the Upasana Kand. Upasana is meditation and prayers to some extent. And the last one, which is the Sannyas Ashram, is where you give up all material bondings, all material attachments, study the Upanishads, and through the Upanishadic knowledge, try and achieve the ultimate goal of life, salvation, which is known as the moksha. I refer to the dharma, artha, kama, moksha as the 4 purusharthas. The Parama Purushartha, the final goal, is moksha. This then is how the Vedas approach everything. In the next lecture, I'll try and give you more details on these four parts and look at the logic of how they are divided. What do they contain? How do they approach the basic dharma or the way of living, the way of ideal Hindu living? If you have liked this information, please share it with your friends. Like and subscribe to this channel. Till we meet again for our next lecture. Namaskar.